Perfect.
Okay, great.
Okay. Well, welcome to the Yoga Philosophy Group, coming to you from the Yoga Center of Chico, everybody. I'm Lauren Carley, and with me is Tom Hess. In this series with the Yoga Philosophy Group, we're studying the Bhagavad Gita and how it relates to your life. We use, let me see if I can get it there. We use this version of the Gita, and we are in chapter 17, so it's the next to last chapter. Each session is recorded like we're doing right now so that you can find it on the Yoga Center of Chico's YouTube page. All of the sessions from the Gita are on this page. We also have the live session every month at the YCC, and we broadcast those live sessions via Zoom, but we don't record the live sessions. That's why we put these sessions on YouTube. Those live sessions are the fourth Thursday of every month at 5:30 if you wish to join us in the studio or from anywhere in the world online. And anybody can join in. These sessions are free. So Tom is going to talk about the chapter we're studying, chapter 17, and then I'll be back with, this is going to be interesting. I'll be back with some suggested practices related to this chapter. So like I said, so you can try to bring this information home to your real life. So with that, I'm honored to introduce Tom Hess, one of the owners of the Yoga Center of Chico, for chapter 17 of the Bhagavad Gita. Tom?
Thank you, Lauren. Well, thank you, everybody, for showing up and hopefully attending all of our sessions online or in person. Okay, so we've been through a lot with the Gita. I mean, the Bhagavad Gita has so many interwoven themes and guidances and disciplines and things that we're starting to really get to the root of the issue, I think, so to speak. And this chapter is called The Power of Faith, or another translation described it is the yoga of distinction of the three kinds of faith. So it was sort of an odd comparison for me, but after I started to think about it a little bit, I understood where I think they're coming from here, where Krishna is coming from here, where he's equating faith to the three gunas. The three gunas being the sattvic guna of luminosity and lightness, the rajasic guna of activity and movement, and the tamasic guna, which is one of lethargy and laziness and heaviness. And so what Krishna is saying here is we all have these three qualities within us. That's one of the natures of the gunas. The gunas are these three energetic representations, I guess I can call them, inside all of us. And we each of us have varying degrees of the sattvic element, the rajasic element, or the tamasic element. And he's telling us that these three tendencies, or the tendency we have towards faith or towards our existence as beings, is centered on one of those three areas. And of course, it changes from time to time. So the sattvic person, when he is in his faith, is focused on achieving union with the Lord, union with God, understanding the true self within. His motives are clear and clean, and he has no room for seeking power or self-aggrandizement. Okay, the rajasic person, in his faith, he's attracted to power and money and flashiness, the next best beautiful thing. The rajasic person wants to look good. Okay, and the tamasic person is enthralled with darker thoughts of ghosts-like or spirits or demons, and their thinking just tends to go that way. So these are three ways that the people's thought processes go. towards the recognition of God and higher elements, towards power or money or accomplishment, rajasic, or that lethargic state that's represented by the tamasic guna. Okay, so then Krishna goes into three elements of life: food, work, and disciplines, and talks about how each of these gunas are represented in these three categories. Okay, so the first category is food. The sattvic person is attracted to mild, tasty, nourishing, healthy food that lends towards their longevity, that's pleasing to the palate, pleasing to the digestive system. The rajasic person is attracted to salty, bitter tastes, peppers, or that, sometimes they give you initial pleasure because of the taste, but eventually through the digestive system, they're not pleasant at all. They lead to pain and discomfort and disease. So these are these foods that are initially attractive, that taste good but might have bad chemicals in it, is rajasic food. They appear one way, but they're truly underneath not that way. And then the tamasic person is attracted to stale, leftover food that's lost its nutritional value. Look at any grocery store. Many of those off-the-shelf processed foods have lost their nutritional value. It's just read it on the label. So you can start to make these food decisions based on which category you would like to put yourself in. Okay. Then the next category that Krishna is looking at is how someone in these three categories might sacrifice or worship. Okay. The sattvic person sacrifices or worships with their entire being, their mind. They follow the scriptures. They follow it to the letter. They trust the learning. The rajasic person, he's looking to look good in front of his neighbors, or they're looking to look good in front of their neighbors. If the flashy, I'm good. I know what I'm doing. I know. And it's a show. It's not the reality. They don't practice what they preach, so to speak. The tamasic person, when they sacrifice or worship, they lose all connection with form. They ignore the scriptures. They ignore precedent. They ignore what's come before them. They just do it just to do it. There's no real feeling behind it. Okay. So then what kind of disciplines or practices do each of these three categories partake of? Okay, the sattvic person, he's a disciplined of the body by purity, honesty, and nonviolence. So he's content within himself, and he doesn't try to do harm on anything or anybody. And he has the discipline of speech. He has soothing words. He speaks kindly and helpfully, and he talks of the scriptures. He speaks of, hey, this is the right way to live. This is still the sattvic person. And when the sattvic person has disciplines of the mind, their mind is lent towards calmness, gentleness, silence, purity, that clean thinking. So these are traits of the mind stuff and disciplines of the sattvic person. What would a rajasic person be? They would perform their disciplines as a gain of their own self-respect, to honor themselves rather than the subject matter that's worshipped. Their admiration is for their own achievement in that experience rather than the essence of the experience. What I'm talking about is that spiritual experience, connecting, or when your spiritual practice, they go for the show rather than the meat of the subject, so to speak. The tamasic person, they just give over to the power. They give their power to others and let others tell them what to do as far as their disciplines and their worships go. It's just, they give up basically, and they let someone who, I've immediately thought of these these groups where the leader controls everything, and that's the rajasic state of, or excuse me, the tamasic state of mind that would be subject to that. Okay, the three categories of giving that these three types of personalities have. The sattvic person is unattached to when and where and how they might give either their time or money or effort, but they recognize the right time and right place to do it, and therefore they do it. And it's just in the flow, so to speak, the right time to give, the right time to donate money or time. The rajasic person is always looking to be recognized for their giving. They're always wanting to be, oh, I gave that, or I want to put my name on this contribution because I want people to know about me. The intent, the result might be all right, but the intention is misplaced. The tamasic person, wrong time, wrong place, wrong amount, wrong everything. They just get it wrong. They don't have the intelligence to see what the right action might be. So these are examples that Krishna gives of how these three types of gunas work in the world, and the potential that we have is, if we want to transform ourselves and change, we can use this chapter as a guideline as to how to do these various things, what food to eat, what disciplines to partake of, how to interact with others. And we can change by making that decision at the right time, at the right place. Okay, the last part of the chapters talks about this three phrase word, Om Tat Sat. And in these three words, it equals Brahman. Brahman being the supreme being in this, basically he's Krishna too, but he's a supreme being in this area that we're studying. Om means that this is the beginning of a good act. This is the beginning of a good thing. Tat is that sacrifice without expectation of return, exemplified by karma yoga. So Om Tat Sat, this is the beginning of a good thing. The good thing is I give without expectation of return. And then that Sat is the good deed. It's the steadfast and discipline. It's that thing that one gives of oneself to further their spiritual practice. And then at the very end, when you put an A in front of a word like sat, it means without good faith, where sat means with good faith. And you'll see this when you start to look at many of the Sanskrit terms and terminology. Anyway, there's a 17th chapter talking about faith in the gunas. And now back to Lauren. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Well, there's a lot to unpack in this chapter as far as practices go. And Tom's already spoken of all the practices. This in some ways, this makes my job really easy because it's pretty much spelled out if you want to practice what the Gita is talking about. However, it can be too much for some people. And so my job here is going to be to narrow it down a little bit to a suggested section of all these practices. And that is on page 248. What is said, I'm pretty sure I got the page right. Yeah, 248. I summarized it for myself here. What is sattva practice? So my recommendation, you might want to focus on the food part of it, but my recommendation is to focus on this page because this talks about what you do with your body, what you do with your speech, and what you do with your mind. So for the next period of time, now you might be watching this as a video and it's out of our scheduled context, But I'll say then for the next 30 days, if you want to practice, you might take a look at disciplines of the body that are sattvic. And I'll be repeating what Tom said, to offer a service, to purity of action, honesty, continence, non-violence, being content. How is your speech? Does it measure up to sattvic practices of speech? Soothing words, speaking truly, speaking kindly, helpfully, studying the scriptures and speaking perhaps to others if it's the right time and they're receptive to talking about the scriptures. You might not be lecturing to them, you might be just chatting back and forth. What do you think about this? What did you think about this? And then the sattvic mind is one of calmness, gentleness, silence, self-restraint. That's a good one for this day and age. Purity of mind, even just purity of, the random thought. So I find this to be an interesting little checklist. Every once in a while, you might just stop and see, how are you doing? How do you measure up to what the Gita lists here on page 248 as some way to live your life? And with that, Tom, any last thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, but I love this chapter towards the end of the book because there's no more questions about it. You want to live a sattvic life? He's saying it. This is what you do. It's just cool. I like it. That's it.
Yeah, that's what I like about what the Gita is doing here is, if people might remember, it starts out by essentially reminding you, you're already living your life. The question is, what are you doing with it? You're already living it. What are you doing with it? Well, the answer in part is, well, throughout the Gita, but it's nicely summarized right here. Either you're doing the practices or you're not. It's pretty simple. And that's a rhetorical question that you just ask yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Lauren. I'll see you all next month at chapter 18, or show up tomorrow night at YCC and we'll talk about this chapter in depth. Take care.